Good evening and welcome to Carpet Python TV on a Friday night out of Melbourne, Australia. Uh, Thank you for watching tonight. Tonight we've got Colin Ray on board for a little discussion about all these exciting projects that he's working with at the moment. I've known Colin, probably one of the first people I've met when I got to Australia was Colin Ray. Always been nice to me. One of the few guys that I've known that it's always gone out of his way to give me a hand when I needed it in the early days when I got here. And I'd like to welcome him on the show tonight. Let me just jump over to the guys. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Let me just unmute you lot so we can get the sound going through. Let me just see. So it should come through. I don't know if you guys need to do it on your side.
Hello.
Hello, Colin. And my usual wingman from on-site. Where are you again? What?
Wangaratta, mate.
Wangaratta. Welcome, Colin Ray, to the show.
Good evening, guys. How you going?
Oh, good. We did have a little chat before we started, and I'm surprised that went according to plan. That's pretty good. That intro, very smooth sailing. I'm sure you've watched a few of our shows, and you've seen how rough it can get around here.
Nah, it's doing a great job. Shows are great.
Thanks a lot, mate. So we'll hang around for a little bit and just get people to get into the show a little bit. It is Friday night after all, and I know people are sort of putting the kids to bed and all the fun stuff that happens on the weekend in anticipation for a great weekend of more freedom this weekend. How have you been dealing with the COVID situation, Colin? Ray?
COVID situation hasn't really affected me too much at the moment. Being an essential worker, I work in the construction side, so work's been the same every day. Wake up, go to work, come home. So that way it's been good. I suppose kids being at home every day with the wife, with the homeschooling, that's probably the only side that's been any change. But other than that, no, the coronavirus really hasn't affected us at the moment, which is good.
Well, that's a good thing. From looking at the news, it's doom and gloom. It seems like we pulled through a little bit better than the rest of the world. If you take into consideration, I've kept an eye on the South African situation. And third world countries have been hit far worse by this whole thing than us first worlders. So it's still good to sort of get back to normalcy. The new normal. The new catchphrases in the government's lingo and the news. It's always the new normal. Colin Schumark, welcome.
G'day, mate. G'day.
Sorry. So tonight, if my wingman's signal breaks up a little bit, he's out in country Victoria, just around the corner from me. A few hours drive. So bear with us. We'll work our way through it like we normally do. So I guess let's start. I mean, we've seen you around. I've known of you for many years, and a lot of people in Victoria, especially, know of you and have seen your, have seen how you've moved around in the reptile industry, and you're not a very vocal achiever. You're one of the quiet achievers in the industry, mate. And I think we need to learn a little bit more about you and what you're up to at the moment. So, Colin, give us a little bit of background about yourself, mate. How did the bug bite? Where did it all start with you, mate?
I was fortunate enough to be born into a family that loved animals. So basically my parents, or my father, was an aviculturist, kept a lot of birds. So saying that, he also had blue tongues, shinglebacks, all that kind of stuff. So growing up, there's already lizards in our backyard that were being kept as pets. So to me, it was just a normal thing. As time went on, I suppose, instead of him having one or two shinglebacks or blue tongues in the backyard, I wanted more and more kind of thing. And, it changed from shinglebacks, and then all of a sudden there'd be water dragons. We bought water dragons. And, I was lucky enough that parents had my full backing, or, vice versa, that if I wanted reptiles or more reptiles, they were more than happy to accommodate it. Dad had a backyard that was filled with aviaries.
Yeah.
So birds were flying around, but there's always a lot of cage floor space on the bottom of the aviaries. So that was already pre-made pens ready to go for the lizards, I suppose.
Tell me something. You were around when early days in Victoria. That's not part of the questions that I've got there, but I thought while I've got you here, how was the licensing different in the old days when you started with in the days? How did that work?
Yeah, when I first started keeping pythons, it was actually on a permit. So there was I had applied for a permit to keep a spotted python, and they gave me a permit, and I'm pretty sure there was you could keep. I think it was 2 or 3 spotted. You could keep. There's only about half a dozen species that was on this one permit.
Yeah.
So there was no actual license book at that stage. It was just purely on a permit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I think it was probably about another 10 years after that before the actual licensing side come in. So.
Oh, okay. So there's always been historically. I mean, I'm always fascinated about every state has got their own set of rules and their own type of keeping. And I was watching something this week. I think it was about Queensland and how they were one of the first. Somebody that moved there. Oh yeah, Tony Harrison. I was watching him on his Gold at Gold Coast. What's Tony Harrison's site Facebook page? Colin Schumacher?
Brisbane Gold Coast snake catcher or something like that.
Yeah, and he was saying how he moved from. I think was he from Victoria? Was he originally from Victoria, or he was from either New South Wales or Victoria? And he said he moved up there because the licensing in Queensland was a lot ahead of the pack. So it's always interesting to me to find out how the people were keeping reptiles 20, 30 years ago, so but the license improved, and okay, so you constantly got new pets, and when did the pythons really start to take feature in your life, mate?
That was probably I would have been, I'm pretty sure I was about 11 years old. I've got an older sister, and my older sister started working at the local milk bar.
Yeah.
And the owners of this milk bar happened to be, I don't know if you know Andrew Getty.
Yeah.
It was Andrew Getty's parents. So, through talking to Andrew, he talked me into, upgrading from lizards to actually keeping a spotted python.
Yeah.
So he was the actual how I started getting into keeping pythons.
Yeah.
And then from then it kind of just expanded. Like it started with one python at the age of 11, I think it was.
Yeah.
By 13, I had a breeding pair of children's pythons.
Yep.
And so basically the first time I ever bred anything was at the age of 13.
Yeah.
That was just a pair of standard children eye.
How many, if you don't mind me asking, how many years ago was that? 13.
I'm 45 now.
Oh, okay, so we're the same age. Yeah. So 13. Yeah. It's about the same time as when I started keeping reptiles. And I was around 13, grade 4 or 5 or somewhere around there. So that's interesting how people usually start around. Usually the ones that stick in the industry are the ones that sort of get hooked at that age and keep going with it.
Yeah. No. Well, that's it. It's always been something that I love doing. And it's one of those things. If you love doing it and you enjoy doing it, it's not a chore. You just keep doing it.
Yeah, of course. Tell me. So how did you that first clutch that you had? Because I mean, we know that those days it was really hard. I mean, Andrew's really good at what he does as well. But in those days, it was really hard to get the right information about that. How did you go about to hatch the clutch? Was it artificial incubation? What did you use? Vermiculite? Tell us a story.
I used vermiculite back then.
Yeah.
But I did lose probably half the clutch to start with because not knowing the right mixing ratios. There was hardly any information around of what to do or how to do it.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. I think my incubation temperature was somewhere about 29 degrees, so it was way too low. There was way too much water in the ratio mix.
Yeah.
So I think I still end up getting about six hatchlings from like a clutch of 13 eggs, which I was still wrapped. I would have been wrapped to just bred one to start with.
Of course.
And then from there, it's each year, you learn something new. And I think it was in I can't remember. I think it was 1991 or something like that. The VHS started back up.
Yeah.
And when the VHS meeting started, that was just like an encyclopedia of knowledge. Every 3 months you'd go to this meeting and you'd learn information that you couldn't find anywhere else. So.
I'm actually trying to think how I met you, because I can't remember if it was through Roy Pales maybe, or at the I don't think it was a VHS meeting, or it could have been a VHS meeting where I met you the first time.
It was, yeah. I think it was, yeah.
Did you serve on the committee at some stage?
Not on the VHS. I was always there helping out.
Oh, you know what? I think I rung. You know what? I rung, I think, Mick and Mip Pugh down in Geelong to find out about, because you were involved in that association. I think that's how I came down there. You invited me to one of the meetings, I think. Yes, that's how it happened.
Yeah, that was the VAAH, the Victorian Association of Amateur Herpetologists.
Yeah.
So, there's two different, the VHS and the VAAH, that was around at that time. The VHS was very scientific, I suppose. Everything was really good. The VAAH was it was a great club, really good club, but it was more of a social club too. So we could actually.
It was my first experience with the crazy Aussies partying through the night after go to the meeting and then have a big party and a piss up afterwards.
That's right.
The morning hours.
It was a two-part meeting. Like the meeting started. I think it was 8 o'clock. We'd finish at 10:30. You'd go back to the president's place, and then you'd finish up probably 4 or 5 in the morning, and everything that you'd learn at the meeting, you'd probably lost during the night through drinking too much alcohol. But no, it was great. Everyone back then was. No one was competition. It was all just catching up with mates, discussing what's happening.
And that's a very good point that you make there. Everybody just laughed. It was just a great night out and listening to some of the stories. And you had all the larrikins of the industry. You had Roy Bales. He used to get off his face. He's just a party animal. And then Scott Iper used to come to those. What was it? Raymond Hauser used to come. Like the whole crew came down, and then it's sort of
Kevin Hoy. There's a lot of,
and it's sort of drifted. It's drifted apart a little bit in the last few years, but we can always look at the past, and we have to evolve with the times, I guess. This is the choice of the new era to communicate. So we'll just have to embrace that now and give it our best.
It is, but as with this carpet fest that you're putting together as well, I think that would be a good opportunity to bring that social side back together as well. We can talk, but at the same time catch up with everyone, which is, nowadays the hobby's spread out over such a large area. A lot of people you can't catch up with, so it's always good to just be face to face, having a good chat.
I wish I could see. Let me just, Colin. I just want to see if I can see. Who's chatting on
the group?
Who's chatting on the group? Hang on, because I want to interact. Want to interact with these people.
Look.
You'll check. Just let us know, because I'm sure somebody said I did a herping trip in the Middleback Ranges with
Darren
Mick.
Boswell.
Yeah, he said he did a herping trip with Mick and Mip in the Middleback Ranges years ago and had a blast. It was fun.
Yeah.
Fun times, mate. Fun times. So let's get back onto these questions and let's dig in a little bit and see what you're all about and what keeps you busy at the moment. So we've discussed how you got into it. Now, when did you? It all sounds like you started working with Antaresia in the early days already. So, when I met you, you were busy. You were one of the first off the rank with the albino carpets, and you were working with blackheads as well. A lot of blackheads and that type of stuff at the beginning of the day. So, tell us, what was the progression from breeding your first children's pythons? What was the progression from there to where you are now? What species sort of featured where, and then how did you end up with what you've got now, or what did you when did you decide to specialize the way you have now?
Yeah, so as I said, it started with the children's pythons. And then from there, I think after the children's pythons, I kind of became a little bit bored with them at that stage, and really fell in love with black-head pythons. That was something that I found really unique and such a great python. But I put a lot of time, a lot of money into them. We did breed them for a little bit, but back in those early days, I reckon 90% of the blackbirds that were around were wild caught stuff.
Yeah.
So they were easy to keep. They were good feeders, but they necessarily weren't good breeders. So you'd always get matings, and then 9 times out of 10, you might get one clutch of eggs out of say six females that you're trying to breed with. Whereas nowadays, I suppose everything's more being captive bred for a longer period of time. So it uses the conditions, therefore it breeds easier. Everything works better in your favour.
It seems like things like it's become a lot more consistent with people breeding captive bred. Like as soon as you start working with the captive bred exclusive, it's like with the ball pythons overseas. They used to struggle with them, and now every new keeper can breed a snake because they're working with long-term 3rd, 4th, 5th generation animals. So you had the blackheads, and then where did that progress from there?
Well, blackheads, and then from then, I think it was just before the first expo that they had up in Sydney, and I found out that these albino carpets were going to come on the market. I was actually working part time at Amazing Amazon back then too, so I was feeding and doing all their sexing and stuff back then. And because Simon Stone was selling a lot of stuff to the shop, we found out through there. So myself and one of my good friends, Damien, we kind of went halvies in buying a pair of visuals. Back then it was a lot of money, as you know, for these original ones. I can't remember the exact thing. I think they were somewhere around six. Yeah. which back then
was laughing now. It was serious business then.
It was an astronomical price, but at the time we thought we were going to get these animals, we're going to breed them, we're going to make our fortune. We'll have to do anything else other than breed reptiles. So we got a yearling male, I think it was, or the male was slightly older than what the female was. We fed them up. We got them to a stage that they were ready to breed. First season, the female bred for us, but unfortunately, they were all slugs, and she got egg bound on one of these. She had a trip to the vet. They sucked the yolk out through the needle and was able to manipulate the egg out. But ever since then, she's never bred for us. So straight away, from being ahead of the ball game and being able to produce visuals in the first clutch, we then had to start going and putting the albino over wild types, then produced our own 100% heads, and then from there, started breeding visuals and 100% heads. So, we thought that we were going really well to start with. Invested the money and everything was going to be fantastic. But unfortunately, in the reptile hobby, things don't always go your way. So, and since then we've bred a lot of animals from these original pairings. But
it was just a slower process. But but it shows you just how. It shows you just what a risk it is, because a carpet's not a hard thing to breed, and it would have been there would have been a definite return if everything went according to plan. But sometimes these things happen. And it's how you work through that, and how you might turn it into a good a better situation. You turn a bad situation into a good situation. There's not always a way to do that, but you can't just stop. A lot of people just give up when that happens.
No, that's the thing. We're dedicated from the start. But going to make it work. As I said, it was just a different road we had to go down to get to where we wanted to be.
Yeah. So you made. Did you ever? I'm assuming you made albinos from the hets that you made originally.
Yeah. Made albinos from those original hets, and then now we've got both visual girls and boys that we're playing along with. Produce some. Excuse me, some nice striped animals too.
Yes.
There's definitely a lot of stuff coming, and even some. I don't know if you'd call them hypo, but definitely some lighter phase Darwins were produced through them too. But
it seems to be a thing with the Darwins. They can be very highly variable as well. I know we spoke about it on the show a few times. Some of the the granite stuff that I used to, the original granite stuff that I sold heads to a couple of the guys, or no, it's just one guy, that's working with it, and the albino granites that are coming out of that, they seem to be very, very orange, almost like
Yes.
the hypos, like a sun glowy type look to them. And that's all stuff now that we're finding out with the Darwins. They can have that really high orange. They can have a very high orange phenotype, just like I saw originally. Sorry, we're going a little bit drifting off topic, but I saw Harrison. Is it still Harrisonite, the form that's in New Guinea, the Papuan carpet python.
Yep.
And those, they are so red when they're born. Like it's crazy to see how red they are, and you have to consider that could be, the expression of color in the pigment in their skins. They look very red as babies, and that relays back out as adults. It comes through real, and you need to strip some pigment away to see that orange come through, in the albinos. But I know what you're talking about. So you made your striped animals from the Darwin. So how much do you still work with the carpets?
Still working with them now.
Yeah.
Still working with Damien as well.
Okay, I've always. Damien's he's not that visible anymore. I'm assuming he's just taken a little bit of a step back from the whole.
Yeah, well, that's right. He was working in a lot of the pet shops.
Yeah.
Nowadays, he's just he lives at home and works with his animals at home.
Yeah.
But no, he's still involved with the reptiles. But as you said, he doesn't talk. He's not really on these pages or.
It's not
shows kind of thing.
It's not everybody's thing. It's not everybody's cup of tea,
No, but we're still good friends and talk a lot. So no, he's good.
Okay, so you had the carpet. You still work with the carpet. So when did you start moving into the seriously? Because, I mean, I can understand you got bored with the Antaresia originally. With just a standard. But as soon as when did you enter the morph or the mutation side of the Antaresia, the stuff that you're working with now? When did that happen?
That kind of probably goes back to the VAH days as well. I was lucky enough, with Roy Pales being involved in the Club a fair bit too, that he kind of took me a little bit underneath his wing and showed me what to do and how to do things properly. Yeah. So therefore, with the collection that he had at the time, I think he was up around 300 or 400 reptiles. So you could go to his place, have a look, and there was literally every locality of Stimsoni or Childrenii or Fensis, whatever you wanted to see, he always had it there. So from there, I was able to actually see that there was a lot more to the Antaresia side than the original stuff that I dealt with in the earlier years. And then from there, just, every time we had a little bit of spare money, we'd buy another breeding pair or hatchlings. And then from there, just, slowly work on what we wanted to. I was lucky enough to buy 3 Tennant Creek animals. They were wild caught originally on permit. And then from there, when we started breeding them, the male was always a very lighter colour. I don't know that you'd call it hypo, but a lighter colour than what the 2 females were.
Yep.
And for many years we bred them, sold them to pet shops. They were absolutely awesome looking snakes, but never really thought that there was much more behind it than that.
Yeah.
And then I think it was in 2006 I got married, and then I had a friend come and look after the house for us while we were away and look after the reptiles. So in return we gave him a pair of hatchling stimmies. That he liked. He was actually the first one after growing those that pair of hatchlings that he produced the first T+ stim.
Yeah. Okay.
Through those animals, and it was from there that then I had to start backtracking to find out whether it was.
That's always a
random mutation that had popped out with the 2 hatchlings I'd sold him, or whether it was actually something that was in my collection.
Yeah, that's always fun when that happens. We sort of it's like a rude awakening when you go, okay, what just happened here, and where did that come from? And then you have to sort of backtrack and figure out where are we going to get there? How are we going to make more of this? So how did you?
Yeah.
So when did you? So how did you figure out that it came from this? How did you go about figuring out where it came from?
Well, what I ended up doing was basically I only had the one male. So one male and two females that had produced the hatchlings that year that my friend actually had got. So it was only a small circle that I was dealing with. But, you know, as you know, when you're dealing with when you're dealing with breeding two heads together, sometimes you might get a clutch of nothing with no visuals coming out, but they could both be hits. So, you know, the first year I think we tried breeding the two females. Only one of them fell gravid. Nothing come from that. So they just all come out looking wild type. And the following year we produced, it was only a small clutch that second year. I think there was 6 eggs and 5 of them hatched, and there was no T pluses in it, but there was this another really awesome looking light kind of hypo thing. Well, not hypo, but just a light phenotype. And you know, the following year, so that's 3 years after Ash had actually produced him, that we were able to produce our first T plus.
Okay.
And by this stage, that third year as well, Ash was actually going to put his original male, that T plus that he had bred, back over both our girls, so we were able to find out what was going on.
Was that Ash that used to work at Amazing?
Ashley Olsen. Yeah.
Okay. Now I remember seeing that, and it's now when you. He used to look. He looked after my snakes in 2010 when I went up to that that conference up in. Yeah, no, good guy. Where is he in the? Sorry, Colin. We're talking about we're talking to you. It's like light switches are going off in my head, and I'm going, I know these guys. Well, I remember a photo because I think he sent me a picture of those snakes and said, "What do you think?" And I remember seeing it, but I didn't know that was like, they were always, you know, like it was all cloak and dagger, you know, couldn't tell where it was from. And I just said, you'd have to prove it out to see where it came from. But okay, now the you know, what's the saying? You know, the light bulb went off with me now. So okay,
the penny has dropped.
The penny has dropped. That's a saying. The penny has dropped now. Where's he in life at the moment?
Well, basically, from he was studying a lot. He was traveling around.
I remember.
It was Asia and all these areas. He was always involved in herpetology, but you know, he got to a stage that he'd produced enough of these T pluses. I think there was about 6 T pluses that he had produced, and then let Snake Ranch know that he had bred them all. Snake Ranch had found out that he had them. Snake Ranch made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. It was, the male was meant to come back and prove both our girls out, but he had an offer that he couldn't refuse. He was looking at buying a house during that time, so you know, I'm not upset with him or anything like that. But you know, he ended up selling the whole collection to Snake Ranch, and from then, basically haven't heard from him. He's just disappeared off the earth.
And I'm assuming nothing ever eventuated of that group that went to Snake Ranch, or did they?
No, the group that went to Snake Ranch, I'm not 100% sure what they did with them up there. There's obviously the people that were working with them at the time would be able to give you more information on that. But from what I understand, they did cross them out to other localities, you know, like you know, your wheat belts and everything like that.
Okay. So I'm just you know, we'll talk about the mutation side of things a little more towards the end of the show. But what I wanted to sort of find out from you is the basic stuff as well. You know, like how you keep the animals and stuff. So let me just grab this list here, so we'll stay on track. That's fascinating how the stars align and so let's just finish that off. So you ended up not having access to the male that was supposed to prove out your female. So how did you go about? So it took you a couple of years. How many did you say? 3 years to make your first?
Yeah, 3 years to make the first T plus.
And then
from there, basically once we proved out that the male was 100%, you know, we started we held back a lot of animals out of those
Yeah,
first,
you would
2 or
have.
3
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
And because it was the only male, it indicated that the chances that it was him, that was where it was all coming from. But at the same time, we had to do so many other different pairings. 66, or the possible het girls were going back over the dad. There's other groups of girls that were putting back over possible het boys.
Yeah.
And the first time that we proved it out was from a clutch that was proved from the original father.
Okay.
And then once we got the first visual, we were lucky enough that there was a male.
Oh,
He was a male.
Yeah.
And from that, we just, everything just become a lot easier.
So when did it? How many years did it take before it became sort of a viable? I mean, you had a lot of hats. You proved it out.
It was probably,
how many
I don't
years?
know, it was probably 5 or 6 years before it actually became viable in the way that we could produce large enough numbers that we were able to sell it. I'm a little bit of a hoarder, so every visual that was coming out to start with, as much as the wife would say, we need to sell it, we need a little bit of money. I kind of didn't want to sell it. I wanted to keep it because the more visuals you have, the more chances you have of producing more animals, of course.
Yeah. Just wanted to say something to Colin Schumacher. I'm not streaming because I'm using Facebook to stream directly to Facebook, so I can't see the comments there. So if there's anything relevant there, relevant to what we're talking about right now, give us a shout out. Okay?
Everyone's saying I was asleep. I'm reading their comments. So.
Okay, they said that you look like you're sleeping, but I know that you had a rough day, mate. You had a rough day.
It's been a big day.
I'll give you a pass tonight. I'll give you a pass. You can just sit there and relax. So let's get down to the nitty gritty of. So we'll talk about that. I'm sure people like to hear about the mutate. But as I said to you, that I've had a bunch of you Antaresia freaks now on the show, and the bigger picture was it was a build up towards the mega show that will have 4 of you guys that are absolute Antaresia nutters, or experts in different fields of the Antaresia mutation industry, and we'll mash that out and talk about all the different mutations that people can can get their hands on these days, because it really is. It's opened up the Antaresia game a bit now. All the mutations.
It has.
It's made it exciting. The
Antaresia side, for quite some time, it wasn't boring, but there wasn't a lot happening. And then all of a sudden, within, say, the last 10 years, everything has just started happening. And as we talked about it earlier, we're right on the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that we can do with this species. We're only, I think, there's only double visuals being made, So until we actually start doing, triple visuals, or, and it's not necessarily just the triple visuals, it's what else you can make in the meantime that comes out from the experience.
Yeah, and then of course you've got the absolutely random stuff like those piebald looking things that you can combine and make albino piebald looking things, or chimera, or whatever they are. My gut's telling me there's something going on there, but we'll discuss that later. Let's just quickly go through here. So I want to talk about how you keep your animals, and whether you breed your own rats and all that type of stuff. So let's just get here. I just want to see so with we know so it's safe to say that you specialize in Antaresia at the moment.
Yeah, we specialize in Antaresia, but saying that, we still try and do a couple of other species. We do Woma pythons as well.
Yeah, okay.
And so there's Womas, albino carpets, and then all the Antaresia. So it's like it's a hobby, but at the same time we like to try and make a little bit of money for it to obviously cover the cost of
course,
feeding, electricity, all that kind of stuff. So if you're just sticking with the one species, then you're not covering all your bases. So we try and do as much as we can, but of course you can't breed every species of python that we have in Australia.
Yeah, it does annoy me when people have a go about people making money off reptiles. And, come on, if you're enjoying an animal and it's paying for itself and it's paying for the electricity, because we know it's not cheap to keep reptiles properly.
No.
You can keep them in a fish tank if you want, but that's not keeping them properly. And keeping them properly it'll cost you money. And a large collection of reptiles isn't cheap to keep. So I'm all for people making a little bit of cash out of it, and even using some of that cash to go on holiday. I'm okay with that as well. So tell me, Colin, I can't remember if you ever bred your own rats and mice. Was that something that you ever did?
Yeah, I did. When the collection was a lot smaller, I could do that. We had, I don't know, half a dozen breeding tubs of rats, and that was enough to breed and feed what we had. But then as time went on and, the collection grew a lot larger, the reptile collection grew larger, it was just too hard to try and keep up with both breeding rats and mice. And, so basically all we do now is we just breed the mice. Yeah. And the mice were only just something that was, I could never keep up with them as well. Yeah. It was more just having for, your hatchlings, you had live food there, or you had a supply that you could always delve into. Yeah. But saying that, I probably didn't go about it the right way to start with. I had a garden shed out the back that we just turned into a rodent breeding room that wasn't properly insulated. There was too much variance in temperatures. So therefore, certain times of the year they bred really well. Other times of the year they froze or they got too hot. So
that is the problem in Victoria with those bloody 46-degree days and no insulation and no air conditioning. You come home and you've got a stinky shed because they're all dead. Yeah, I remember all of those. Yeah,
I'd gone to the trouble where we insulated the inside with a type of foam and had a whirligig on the roof and shade cloth over the top. So it was a little bit more than your standard garden shed, but as we know, Melbourne temperatures are just there's too much variance in your day-to-day temperature, and that really showed up on how much we bred or how much we didn't breed from the rodents.
Tell me, so what do you do nowadays with your collection?
Yeah, so nowadays I was lucky enough. Marty Bahaja got me some of these super mice. Yeah. Now there's a couple of different types of super mice going, and there's the first lot that we got through another guy, and they didn't really turn out to be that super. The litter size.
Of course not. Of course.
Litter sizes weren't that large. It was basically a waste of time with them. But what we found with the ones that we got from Marty was that he had said, make sure you keep them in a warmer environment. If you keep them in a warm environment, everything's going to work a lot better. So the only other warm environment we had was basically the snake shed. So we set up a small corner in the reptile room, and from there we were able to start producing these super mice. And the super mice, since doing that, we haven't looked back. The numbers that we've bred over the last, say, 6 months is probably more than what we've bred in the last 3 years, keeping them outside in a garden shed.
Gee, that's all right.
So not very happy with it. But saying that, we had to modify the shed a bit too to accommodate this.
Yeah, that Marty guy is a clever guy. That Marty guy.
He is. No, he's a really good guy. We've known each other for a while now, and most nights we have a chat, and it's good to have someone that you can chat to. We bounce ideas off each other every night. He'll say something, and I'll say, "No, try this," or
Colin,
there's a lot of times you learn from your mistakes. But if you've had someone that's been in the hobby a little bit longer, not saying that I'm always right or wrong, but it's always good to have someone to chat to.
Colin Schumacher and I will also call each other late at night, and we just talk each other to sleep. That I know what you're talking about. You didn't hear what I said now. Did you hear what I said, Colin Schumacher? Oh, he did. There he didn't.
I heard you.
Okay.
I did.
You're too busy doing stuff there. I don't know what you're doing, but in any case. So you breed your own. So the mice are doing all right. The super mice, the real super mice. It's nice that they. And then what I wanted to ask you is, I remember you. That's one of the things that you helped me with years ago. Was you helped me? You always cut wood and you built cages and stuff like that. Do you So you went through a phase, or you probably still build. Can you still do you still do cages
Yeah.
like you used to do? Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't say that I still do them. I'm still cabinet making, foreman at a cabinet making company, RTW Cabinets.
Yeah.
And I've cut up a lot of stuff for Marty.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that, I don't produce it and sell it, but, for mates, if they need something done, I can normally help them.
Yeah.
I've still got cages out there that are from when we first met, actually. Some of these display cages. It's if you build them right, they last forever.
Yeah, and you seal them. I think with melamine, a lot of people forget to, they leave the corners open and the edges open, and if the moisture in melamine just doesn't work. So if you can seal them right, and the edges, they last forever.
The number one thing with building melamine cages, what I found was actually putting a lino bottom in. So in the bottom of the cage, contact adhesive with a little bit of lino.
Yeah.
And then once you've constructed the cage, actually put a sealant around from the lino to the melamine.
Yes, I remember.
They'll give you another 5-10 years on the cage just by doing that.
Okay. So there's a handy tip, a pro tip from the pro over there.
Yeah.
A little bit of lino. I remember that when you say stuff, when you talk, I remember seeing those cages with the light. Okay, now you see, this is now refreshing my old memory. You don't realize you're getting old, and I'm not even that old. But you don't realize your brain forgets some of this stuff. So there's a good tip, a little bit of lino on the side. What did you say you used to stick that onto the
with contact adhesive?
Yeah, yes.
But also with your melamine board that you can get, there's different grades of it. So there's HMR, which is a high moisture resistancy.
Yes.
And there's a standard melamine. So a standard melamine has no resistancy to moisture, so that's going to swell up a lot easier.
Oh, okay.
Whereas your HMR board, that still won't take a lot of water, but it gives you a little bit more time to wipe it off before it actually starts soaking.
Okay. There we go. Good stuff. So I'm assuming you use what's your weapon of choice these days? A rack or a cage?
I use everything. Yeah. So basically, I have one wall that's set up with display cages. Yep. When I say display cages, they were my breeding cages, and they still are breeding cages too. They just it's a floor space of, I think it's 2 foot by 450 deep by 450 high. Yeah. So some people might say they're not overly large, but what I found with all the Antaresia species, they don't need that much area,
No.
Most of the time they'll just be sitting in a corner doing nothing. Yeah. So that each cage is just run off a 60-watt globe, or I think nowadays we use the halogen globes, which are 53 watts. Each cage has its own thermostat. Back in the day, it's if you can look at it, it's just banks of cages.
Stacked,
we used to run one thermostat per bank, but then over time, when you're young, you make these mistakes and then learn that you actually have to have a thermostat for every cage so that you don't end up cooking reptiles that are in a cage other than the one that has got the thermostat in it, where the globe is blown and the other two lights stay on full time. So.
Yeah, I guess the way I used to do it, I used to have banks as well, and what I did was I used to run per level. So if you had the floor level, if there was 4 cages on floor level, I'd run one thermostat over those 4 cages because they're all sort of on the same height. Yes, so you can assume that the laws of heating would make sure that those 4 cages are the same temperature. But what I used to always do was, after I've cleaned everything, I used to open the cages that had the thermostat probe in, just so it sort of cooled the cage, and then it would reset all those cages and warm them up slowly again. So it's the same as what with snake racks as well. I always tend to pull the bottom tub out where the probe is, just so everything above it, so I know the bottom tub is, it's not sitting hot and everything above it is cool. I don't know if my reasoning behind that's stupid, but
the reasoning sounds good.
But with expensive animals, if you've got I don't understand. A lot of people are so tight with the way they do stuff. You know, if you've got a $5,000 animal in a cage, then get that cage a thermostat.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
you
And
know.
that's why now we have done that, and each cage has its own thermostat.
Yes.
We were trying to find a good thermostat. You know, obviously there's on that one run of cages there's 24 display cages. So
Yeah.
you know, if you buy your microclimate ones, you know, even your microclimate minis, I think they're anywhere between $90 to $100. So there's
They're not
you know, a
cheap.
few thousand just in thermostats there. So we actually did a lot of testing on different thermostats that we were getting overseas.
Yeah.
And we actually found, I'm not actually sure what the brand is. It's a Chinese brand,
Yeah.
but it's digital, and it gives you an LED display that gives you a live temperature display on it. And it's you basically set your minimum and your maximum temperature. So it will, to say, you can have it turn on at 29. It goes up to your maximum temperature of, say, 31, and then it turns back off. But during that time, it actually shows you exactly what the temperature is in there. It's got a fully a flexible probe that you can put anywhere in the cage. It's fully waterproof.
Yep.
And it's also got another indicator light on it that shows you when power is going to
Being
the globe.
fed.
So
Yeah, I got sent. There's a company called Inky Bird that does those It sounds similar to these. I mean, they mass produce. It's an on-off thermostat, but it's but they've got those same thermostats now. That it's got a display that tells you the current temperature. It's got a display that tells you the set temperature, the one that where it's supposed to be, and then it's got an indicator that tells you when power is being applied to the heating device. And and now that same 60, I think it's like a $40 thermostat, comes with you can get them now in Wi-Fi, one that connects your internet with Wi-Fi as well, that gives you a current, you know, that gives you a readout wherever you are in the world. You know, if you've got a cell phone signal or mobile phone signal, you know, you can see what's going on with your thermostat. So I mean, we've got this technology around, and it's like you say, you just have to try a few, find what you like. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars, but make sure that you know.
It's got to be the right thing, right thermostat for the right application that you're doing. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's a globe that's turning on and off. You don't need any of the fancy, you know, dimming ones or anything like that. It's basically, you just need something that's going to work, something that's going to be reliable. Yeah. You know, you got your cheaper options of your what were they, BN2s or something like that, your wafer thermostats. But there's too much variance in them. They would end up jamming. You know, they weren't really a good thermostat. So we're quite happy with how those ones are. And then we have the carpet cages. Carpet cages, we use a 60-watt reflector globe and use the microclimate thermostats on them. Yeah. I tend to find I've been happy with microclimate. I think I've probably only had one or two that have died over the time, but saying that, you know, I've got about 10 years worth of use out of it before it died. So I can't complain.
Yeah, no. We've got a question here from Darren Boswell. He asks, so could you ask Colin if he uses globes? Does that mean do you use globes for day and night temperature, or do you just cut the power at night?
No, so I just cut the power at night. Yeah. The room itself, I don't know if it's a question later on. We'll go into how the room's set up, but basically they just have a daytime temperature, and nighttime temperature is whatever the ambient air temperature is in the room.
Sorry, Colin.
The way the shed's set up is that during summertime, the ambient air temperature probably wouldn't drop below 28, 29 at night anyhow. You know, during winter time, you know, if everything's running properly and the fans are working to how they should, you know, we can get down to about 20 degrees. So we have the room works itself. Yeah. So there's no need to give them the nighttime temperature.
So, I mean, the more I do this show, the more I realize as well, you know, a healthy snake, because we keep them. It's a lot of the guys, like the more serious reptile keeper. We've all got, I used to have snake rooms and snake buildings and stuff like that. And it's exactly what you said. In summertime, that room ambient temperature at night is too high for them to do anything. And then a healthy snake should be able to handle that. If your snakes are getting sick in winter, then you're not you're not providing them with enough daytime heat.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems to be the thing that sticks out to me through all the discussions we've had, is that as long as you can provide that daytime temperature, whether it's 12 hours, you can reduce the hours in a day, but then make sure that it's warm enough. And you can't have a you can't have a fat, thick snake get to the right temperature with the same temperatures as so you can't provide them with 10 hours heat and their core temperature can't get up to the right temperature. You need to put it higher for shorter amount of time. So it's interesting, it's just stuff that I'm observing. It's a current theme, is that, a lot of guys just let their temperatures drop at night with no issues.
There's no issues at all.
So it makes you wonder where the problem is. I can only think that it's not enough or not high enough, because your heating devices won't get as high in winter in the daytime as what it would.
I don't know. Is it maybe a lot of people, or some people, that keep stuff, just say in garages, where you have extremes, where you've got a cold winter's night in a garage. Doesn't matter, even if your cage is running, the globe's not going to be able to keep up with the heating that area up. It's still going to get down below anywhere from say 12 to 15 degrees. Which is too cold.
And in daytime, the heat, it might look like the temperature's the right temperature, but I'd argue that the temperature would not be getting to the appropriate temperature, and it might look like it's warm enough, but because your ambient room temperature is sitting lower during winter, your daytime temperature probably won't get high up where it's supposed to be as well. So this is stuff that people need to take into consideration. I don't know if that came across right.
No, it did.
So you need to take that into consideration. If your room gets cold in winter, then your daytime temperatures are going to be below where you want it. So if normally if the temperature gets to about 35 in summer, in winter your heating devices won't get it up to 35. It might get up to 30. So you have to adjust that to prevent any illnesses and colds, especially if your daytime hours are less, because a snake probably is not getting to the right temperature where it's supposed to be. It's optimal temperature. Somebody else asked you as well, do you think the tubs, Scott Ryan asked, do you think the tubs vivariums up the top will have less of a heat gradient as heat rises to it? What have you found? Have you ever lost snakes in top rows or top racks or top cages?
No, he is right. There's probably less variant in the top cages. But we're saying that I keep all the females in the top cages. Males are always kept in the bottom cages. Of course, come winter time, they're the first cages that are going to start dropping in temperature before anything else. Even on a standard day in the shed, you could get a heat gun and you could shoot that down on the glass on the bottom row of cages, and that would be 23, 24. By the time you get to the top, it's 28 degrees. So there's a 4-degree variance just on a standard day.
Yeah, and that is another key aspect that you've just mentioned. A cheap heat gun. Those infrared heat guns, they used to be hundreds of dollars 10 years ago. Now you can pick them up for $20 on eBay. Yeah. So there's no excuse to not have you don't need to have the old mercury-filled glass, those old things that, but they were accurate. But, a temp gun, as long as it gives you, if it's who cares if it's $30? As long as it gives you a rough idea of what the temperature is in the basking area, in the basking spot. That's the most, who cares what happens in the rest of the cage? As long as a snake can find a spot to warm up, it's important to know what the hot spot is. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And that's right. And people even ask, just say with the display cages that I've got that are only a small area, that you're dealing, how can you get enough temperature variant? Well, it depends on how you set it up with your hides as well. Your hides are always at the cooler end, or, away from your globes. So your globes on one side, hides on the opposite side. Therefore, if you got that temp gun and you shot it directly underneath the globe, it's 29, 30 degrees. Underneath the hide, it's 26 degrees. There's a 3-degree variance just over in a 2-foot cage. So there's plenty of variance there. Plus, during, as we said, the nighttime temperature drops down as well. So in the wild, they're not going to be trying to find a cool part. If the temperature is only 29, 30 degrees in the cage, they're not going to be trying to find a 23 degree part of the cage. It's, I think a lot of times people overthink things and try and do things too much variance. You've just got to. Best thing is go in the wild and seeing the conditions that they live, the temperatures that they live, and then a lot of things just go out the door. You go, mate, just keeping them with a couple of degree variance from hot to cold end is perfectly fine, as long as they have that time at night where the temperatures will drop.
Yeah, and a place to hide. I think a lot of people forget that these things in the daytime, they do not want to be seen. They want to be, unless they're sitting in a rock crevice somewhere where they can crawl out with just their head sticking out to warm up a bit. They do not want to be seen. So you need to give, them a place to. They could be cold, but they need to be secure and cold. Then they don't care. I reckon they'll crawl under a bush. If the bush is nice and tight against their backs, they'll just fall asleep. Remember, on the channel, hashtag be the snake. Always have be the snake. There we go. So
that's right. I've done a holiday in Darwin before, and we've found children's pythons out on the road on a cold night when it's raining. So you look at these things and you go, it shouldn't be out. The temperature is too cold. What's it doing out? It's raining. But obviously, what's necessarily written in the books isn't how they live in the wild, and that's what we've got to try and reflect back to a lot of times is, how these animals have survived for so long. And, are we doing the right things or the wrong things? So we're going to try and mimic a little bit what's happening in the wild. And that's the same with the light period too. So all my snakes have a light period where the fluoros will turn on in the shed at, say, 6 in the morning. They're on for 12 hours during, say, summertime. And then winter time, they only come on for 8 hours. So there's a natural variance. Whatever's happening outside, I'll mimic the same thing inside the shed. Everything's run off timers. There's 4 double fluoros in the shed. Now, that in itself kind of creates a little bit of its own heat source too.
Of course, a little bit. I was going to ask you something though, because if my memory serves me well, you used to use the old party globe trick as well. At some stage.
I used to. I did.
When did you make the transition from the old blue and red party globe tricks? I remember coming to Australia and going, what is up with these party globes that everybody has in their snake cages? I saw that at Palesy's house first, and I went, this is one of the big breeders? What are these blue and red little party globes? And he had boxes. Remember, he had a stack of those out in his rat shed. It was like boxes and boxes of red and blue globes. So when did you make the transition, mate?
Probably about 10, 15 years ago now.
Oh, okay.
I kind of got to a stage that I realised that it wasn't making any difference whether we used blue globes, red globes, or just your natural warm white style globes. The main thing is the heat source that it's producing, and the actual colour of the light is very.
As long as
worry about.
And I remember, because I tried that as well, because you see everybody does it and then you sort of do it as well. And I eventually just went, no, I can't do this. I went to ceramic heat emitters and I used dimming stats, because at the end of the day, it's the heat. You have to make the heat, but it's good to see evolution. We don't just stick with that, but I'm sure we'll find people that still do that. I'm sure there'll be still some old time.
I suppose the other side of evolution is that on the other side of the room is all racks now. So I make my own racks. They're just a melamine rack with the plastic tubs. And
any size? Is there a specific size tub that you prefer for Antaresia? Is there any specific sizing that you find they like?
It's basically nearly the same size as what my display cages are in the way of floor space. I think they're roughly about they could be, I think, somewhere between 29 to 30 litre tub.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of people will use the 40 litre Bell's tubs for the ants, which is it's fantastic. It's slightly bigger, but I kind of look at things and go, okay, people are using other things, but this is something that's worked for me for so long. If it wasn't right, why is everything breeding? Everything's working to the best advantage. So I just keep working with the sizes that I've been working with, the temperatures that I've been working with for years. The only things that have changed is probably just the methods that I incubate stuff. To what I used to.
Yeah, that's it's good to know that things are slowly changing. So, what I was going to ask you. So, what are the so is there any other mutations that you're working with at the moment? Anti-reserve mutations?
Yeah, I suppose there's stuff that I've produced. There's pastels. So these pastels come from the same line as what the T pluses have as well.
Yeah.
It's something that we've been working on them probably about, I don't know, good 5 years now. I actually produced one of the pastels first before I did the T pluses.
Yeah.
But it was, at the time, I was so focused on finding out where this T plus gene had originated from in my collection, that when this light line came out, I went, oh wow, that's fantastic. But that's not what I'm after at the moment. So I kind of got put in the tub, got fed up, put on the side.
So is that a pastel? Is that without is that outside of the T positive? Is it just the color? Is that just a color variant, or is it a part of the T positive?
No, that's from what we've worked out so far. It's a new mutation. Where we've, at the end of this season, hopefully we'll be able to tick off exactly, prove it out to what it is. It's leaning a little bit towards being incomplete dominant.
Okay. That's exciting if it's something incomplete dominant.
It is, because what we've done after producing that first one, we've produced, I think it's roughly about 4 or 5 now.
Yeah.
Now one of them is also het for T plus, and 2 seasons ago we were able to put that together with one of our males, and they produced the pastel went over the het and produced pastel T pluses.
Yeah.
Now I'm calling them pastel T pluses because when you put these next to a standard looking T plus, they absolutely glow. They're totally different animal. Even though there's different phenotypes in the actual range of the T plus, these things just like next level kind of thing. Is this
I just want to swap. Is this one of them? You should be able to see that. Can you see that on the screen? Is that one of them?
No, that's another morph that, or not morph, but it's another project that I'm working on.
Let me see. Have you got? Let me see if I can go through here. Have you got any of the pastel stuff on your Facebook page, or is that something you haven't really showed? Hold on. Here's sure. Here we go. I've got one. There we go.
Yes. Yep.
So this is some of the stuff. I thought let's just look at some snake pictures. People want to see that. So that's interesting. I haven't seen these photos. Why am I not? You see, the Facebook withholds information from people. I need to come and have a look at these things more often. Okay, so tell us a bit. So the pastel top right there is just a standard pastel, yeah?
That's right. It's a standard pastel. Now, when they're in a group picture with the other snakes, there, it doesn't stand out to be that exciting. But if you put that next to a standard wild type, you really see that it has got a hypermelanistic kind of thing happening in it, where it's stripped a lot of the darkness out of it. There's a lot of yellow sides that come up. But yeah, once we put that with the T plus, it really changed the whole dynamics of the T plus gene.
That is very nice though as well. So it carves out some of the blacks as well. It looks like it's almost like a hypo. Yeah. If I dare say that.
That's the thing, I didn't know, do you call it a hypo? It just shows signs of being hypomelanistic. So
there is sorry to interrupt you. There's no hypo. Like I can't think of Oh, hypo. There's not currently anything hypo in Antaresia, is there? That looks hypo to me. What is a standard? Standard Stimson pythons are more black though, aren't they?
Yeah, they vary so much depending on locality, but there is a lot more darker
Is that a
colours in standard wild type.
now?
You know,
is that a Stimson's? Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
See how that's more brown. Sorry,
Yes.
that's a lot more brown in it. Okay. I'm just trying. We all know that my Antaresia knowledge is very sketchy, so I'm using this. I'm using this as a little educational chat as well, because I can learn as well. But I'm just going through the photos, so I'm trying to patch this together. But man, I can see the difference there with those. Let me just put this back up here, because that is that you can see how soft those colors are with the reduction in the dark pigments. They're almost like the browns and the blacks have been taken out of it. Pastel's a good starting point. You can always change it to hypo if it turns out to be go, man.
There's that many. Sorry, was that for me or?
No. You go. No, I was just in general. Yeah.
Yeah. To call it a proper hypermelanistic, things really need to be proven out. Breeding a hypermelanistic to an albino, and whether they produce sunglows, and then you can call it a proper hypo. So I thought, is there going to be haters? Haters are always going to hate what you're doing. So I thought if I just give them their own individual name, people can decide from there what they are. And meantime, I'm doing a lot more breedings with them to try and work out exactly what the genetic background is on them. There's fun times ahead. I think it's definitely could be a game changer, putting it with other different mutations.
Yeah, no. I tell you what though, I'd have fun just having those to stare at in my snake room. I wouldn't mind staring at them. Like that's nice. I mean, I didn't realize you. When did you posted? You must have posted those 25th of April. Yeah, so that's recent. I haven't seen these photos.
It was the day after Marty Bahaja did his talk.
Yeah, remember?
Yes, but what was the reveal? Was that part of the reveal? Maybe I just
That's
didn't
the
look
reveal.
Okay. But wasn't there other photos? Were they those exact same photos?
They were the exact same photos. There's also, I'm pretty sure I put a wild type next to them as well, so that they had the comparison to try and work it off.
And here's just a photo. Yes, I don't know. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff to do, man. I don't see all of this stuff, and if Facebook's are very selective with what they show. But it's good for me, This is like a reveal to me. This is like an unboxing. But have a look at this clutch. So in that clutch, this clutch that we're looking at here, what's in there? What is that just T positives, or is that pastels in there?
That's just T positives in that.
Okay.
So when the pastels are born, they automatically stand out from their siblings. But they don't have the intensity of what the T plus does.
Okay, and I'm assuming
normally after the first shed, you can look at them and go, yeah, okay, there's 3 in that clutch or whatever.
And I'm assuming that's a pastel as well.
It is. That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, no, that looks. You can see that's definitely. That's nice. Very nice. Very interesting. See this. I'll have to come and do some photos for you at some stage as well.
No, I'll be happy. No, that'd be good.
Bring all my camera gear. We'll get.
It's always good to have someone else's thoughts on them too, I can have my thought process of what I think it is, but it'd be good to also have someone that's had experience with the carpets too. So I think there's different things in the carpets that could be similar. I've only spent a little bit of time with the albino carpets. I'm not really into all the other morphs in the carpets. So.
Now this is an interesting one as well. I wanted you to tell us about this one. So what's going on here with this patchy looking one? This character?
Well, yeah, I think it's just a paradox or a chimera, T plus.
Yeah.
But saying that, I've read it back to its mum, hoping that something might have come from it. Nothing come from it, but we've kept 4 of the girls from that litter. So he's going to be going back over them, not this breeding season, but the following.
Yeah.
So. I would just say it's just a random paradox that's happened. But this year we also had a wild type that come out showing T plus spots in it. So it's actually gone the opposite way.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping, is putting him back over the other paradox.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to call it reverse paradox, because one's T plus paradox, the other one's a wild type paradox. If we put those two back over each other, are they going to produce something, or is it just a random thing that's just happened?
Well,
I love walking out and actually having a look at that snake. It's
of course,
one of a kind. Where
of course you do.
You go out there to work and you end up just staring at snakes instead of working.
It's one of those you have to just pick up every time you see it. You look at it and just go, I just have to touch you a little bit, like you feel it up, I saw something else here that's interesting as well. What is that? Please just, what is that? Is that a pastel as well?
No, that's, it looks like T plus children eye.
Ah, okay. So that's also, so you've got that also in the mix going on there and stuff.
Yeah. So okay. I don't know if you want to go into that now, but we did quite a few breedings going back 3 or 4 years ago with the different forms of T plus. So there's T plus Simpsons in my line, David Evans' line, and the children eye. So we did breedings to see exactly what is, they're all called T plus, but are they all T plus, and 2, are they on the same, what's the word for it, allele?
Yeah. David's actually watching tonight. I'm surprised. I saw him comment something earlier today. So the whole team's here. That's been on the show. Yeah, so you went to
David's been good too. We've chatted a fair bit about this T plus project and bounced a few ideas off each other along the way.
So what have you? From what I can understand, from what I've heard on the show before, so are they compatible or incompatible? The
T plus children's and the T plus Stimson, they're compatible. That really surprised me. I thought they would have been different, but the full clutch come out as visuals. Those from those visuals, there's a natural variance in the clutch that some look more like children eye than they do Stimsons. But they all tend to have that more orangey kind of colour than what the standard T plus children's would.
This is of course have always been my favourite. The striped. What is this? What is that? A Stimsons or a Mackie?
No, it's a maculosa.
Yeah.
Spotted python. So that's another morph for It's just a pattern morph. It's not genetic.
That pose on a white or black background, that would be a beautiful picture to take under the right lights. Yeah, I'll have to.
Yeah. I know a good photographer that will come around and might do that for me.
Well, I have to go and show Marty as well. Yeah, so I'll come and show you guys how to set it up so that it's permanently there, so we can start evolving this picture scene, the photography scene of the reptile industry as well. You literally just need a corner, and you need a fairly decent camera and lights, and you just need to have a good eye. And like I used to keep everything on white paper, so that makes the job a lot easier as well, because if you don't disturb them and they coil like that, and you can get them under those lights, perfect shot the first time. Because as soon as you move these guys, I did some photos at Faye's house last 2 years ago, I think, or last year, and I've not seen, I'm used to carpet pythons, taking photos of carpet pythons, and I've not seen snakes become so shitty to work with like these Antaresia. As soon as they move, you can't get them to sit still. It's the craziest thing,
They're so inquisitive. I'll do the same thing. All the photos I take are on just a Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy S8, which I thought was the best camera. I'd bought the digital SLR back in the day, and then I got a mobile phone that was taking better photos than what the digital SLR was. So that's all I've stuck with. But you can set them up underneath a hide and then take the hide off. You get probably about 5 seconds to get your best shot in. Anytime after that, they're coming straight towards the phone. They're inquisitive. They want to see what you're doing.
And they want to eat you.
Food for them.
They want to eat you. Marty, I think it's Marty that just said, he's still upset that I call these cameras shit. So No, don't stress, man. I still still call Colin's camera shit, and he's. What have you got? You got a fairly decent Nikon. We won't go there. So no, that's cool. I'll come and do some photo shoot. Definitely. I mean, I like to look at stuff as well. Like I like to just see beautiful snakes. I mean, I think, and this is great, 10 years ago, it was your, carpets, and you saw your proserpines and your blackheads. And about the most exciting thing I saw in blackheads were the black-backed ones. The
Yes.
Melbourne Reptile Warehouse used to always have those, and they bring them out one hand with a light hypo-looking one, and then with these blackbacks. And you don't see those blackheads anymore because they just turn dirty, ugly when they get old. But they were beautiful snakes. And now,
I think
sorry, Colin.
Hayden Lowry's breeding some of those blackheads at the moment. Yeah. But yeah, back in the day, there's so many things that we bred. I think there were a few blackheads back then.
Yeah.
And we used to sell them off the cheapest because no one liked them.
Yeah.
It was whereas now, times changing. I suppose that's even with a lot of the different locality specifics. Is that whenever there was something light or something dark,
yeah,
it was like, oh, geez, you don't want that. That's not what it should look like.
Yeah.
Whereas if we knew what we knew, if we knew then what we know now, all these different mutations or possible mutations could have been starting a lot earlier in the hobby. Well, especially with myself. I was never one that was deeply into the mutations until 10, 15 years ago.
But this stuff has always been in collections. It's just taken recent times for people to start opening their eyes to it. I mean, at one stage when we started, it went through phases. You used to be able to buy carpets it was expensive. But as soon as we started working with the albino carpets and things like, it became expensive to buy females because that's the next thing people wanted. We all wanted adult female carpets so we could make these, I used to, I was notorious for making into subspecific crosses. To me, Victoria, it was never a big deal because it was always under the same species code here. And then they decided to change it. Well, we won't go down that path. But now, I think it's made it so exciting now. It just makes it makes it nice when you can walk into a room and every drawer that you open is something different and something it's still within the same species. So you have got that luxury now where you can specialize in one species, like the marbles. You can work with just marbles and you can have every tub could look different, and it's the same species and it's the same mutation. That's the great thing about the marble gene. Do you work with the marbles, Colin?
I do. I have got a marble here. It's not something that I'm working. I'm going to be working with them in a different way.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm planning on doing basically putting a pastel over the marble because I believe, like a lot of other people do, that there's something more. There is a lot more to the marbles than what we know, and basically by putting a pastel or a hypo over it, we can slowly start stripping back layers of it to find exactly what is going on.
Tell me something, just to interrupt you. I found this picture. Is that a pastel next to a normal?
No, that looks like one of David Evans' line of T+ Stimmies.
Okay, so you keep them as well.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
It's been good. We've been able to breed Dave's line and my line together and find out that they weren't compatible. And this year we're actually breeding the double heads from Dave's line and my line together. So fingers crossed, we get the 1 in 16 chance of having a double visual seeing what else comes.
I'm going to get this right. This is a pastel.
Yes, that's a pastel. Yeah.
I'm going to guess it right eventually. But that to me looks like a hypo. Like, I mean, that if you take but that's just me guessing. But that would be, if that's incomplete, and if it's incomplete dominant, it also works in the same way as what we anticipate, what we've seen with the carpet pythons, which would make sense, Yeah. That's very nice. I do like the soft colors and the pastels. I think pastels are a good word for it. I mean, pastel to me, that's fitting for that, the phenotype there.
Yeah. And, as we were saying before, I think it was one of those earlier photos you put up, we've produced another type of phenotype of the hypos.
Yeah.
So they carry probably more of a lighter background with
Yep.
the red patches.
Yes.
And then there's another type that we'll be breeding this year, the two of them together, and that is instead of it being like a yellow hypo, it's taken a lot of the dark brown pigments out of it,
Yeah.
and it's just left it with a very light red base,
Yes.
and not much contrast with the actual blotches on it. And down the sides tend to get a little bit of silver flecking. So
Yeah.
eye colour is a little bit silver too. Not when I say silver, it's not fully silver, but it's got that kind of silver grey tinge to it. So
Yeah.
there's still a lot of things that we need to do with just this one line of animals, or a couple of lines of animals, to see what more we can get from it.
But that's exciting as well, having your next 10 years booked. You're booked full for the next 10 years with projects?
Yeah, well, there's so many projects that I want to do, but at the same time, you've got to, like you asking whether I keep marbles. I would love to keep marbles, but I kind of look at things too and go, well, there's so many other people like Marty Barger and that have put so much time, effort, and money into them, and that are ahead of me on it. That I'd be better off chasing my own
the stuff that you're working with,
stuff that I'm working with, and actually working out what they are, and then putting them into another mutation. So I love to be breeding marbles at the same time. I love the white ones. I've been trying to harass David Evans to send me down one, but I think I'm on a list of 100 other people that have done it to me within the last few weeks. So.
Tell me, what's that? What's this snake that we're looking at here? That looks almost like a granite finish on that.
Well, that's another project that we're working on. There's quite a few projects out there that are unfinished, but are still in the thing. I just call it. I have my own names for them. They're not necessarily known more for anything. But I call that a pixel children's. Yes. So basically, they're born with the granite look to them. I think that's the second generation clutch. So basically, the first we've got a male that's very light. Doesn't have much patterning on him. A few black specks. He was put over a wild type female. Then the babies. There was one baby that came out real speckled. We put him back over that 2 years ago and produced those babies there. And half the clutch come out like that. So automatically I start thinking, is it possibly another co-dominant gene, incomplete dominant gene? I don't know. But, we're breeding the father with one of the daughters that carries the same phenotype look. So this year, hopefully, if it is an incomplete dominant, there might be super form in it. It might just be just a random thing that just pops out, But at the same time, we're having fun just trying to see what's behind all these different mutations. And that's a good thing about line breeding stuff, is that you can actually, from one snake, you can make so many different things just by line breeding, keeping the best back each year and seeing what's actually behind stuff.
I wonder if I can just ask you something. I think your mic is just rustling against your shirt somehow. It's just started doing that. I think that's better now. Just say something, Colin.
How's that?
That's better, yeah. So I started hearing something. Somebody's asking who's sleeping, and I think it's because it sounds like a snoring in the background there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's my co-host down there. He looks like he's a bit asleep. I think he's just taking.
What are you talking about?
He's just taking it. He's just taking it all in. So no, that's exciting. I mean, there's so many, and I see you've got some. There's some albino Max in the mix there as well. There's quite a few bits and pieces. Patternless children's,
patternless children's as well.
Granite Max.
So, Granite Max, we're lucky enough. A lot of, as everyone knows, I'm probably a little bit of a tight ass when it comes to spending money in the hobby. So I don't necessarily buy things when they're at the newest or anything like that, and when they're at the top price. The Granite Max, we try to get into them earlier, but we kind of got jibbed by a guy. But we won't go into that story. You probably know more about that than what I do. And then
I know a lot of things. I know a lot of things, and I try and just not talk too much on this forum because I seem to get myself into trouble. Yeah, but So you ended up getting a hold of a Granite Mac.
Yeah, got a Granite Mac, which I'm pretty sure is through stuff that you'd got originally through Shane Plank, and he's up to age this year, so we'll be producing some offspring, going a couple of different ways with the granites. There's so much that you can produce from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you start putting everything together, and it's when you start actually putting them all on in one bucket, so you can see what you, that's when you start up, when you can do a collage of all of them, and you can sort of, that's the only time that you can really understand just how varied they are is when you do like I've done a few of these collages for some of the guys that have come on the shows, like David and Marty. And you look at some of the, you put them next to each other, and that's when you really get an appreciation for what's to come, and what's still to do. I mean, there's so much work to do, and you guys are going to have your hands. You're going to be, you're going to have yourself. It's a big job.
Well, that's it. I suppose what I'm doing here is pretty small. I'm working with just say the Stimson T+ genes a lot, but there's people like Marty Bahaja, David Evans that are doing so many different other crosses that what the stuff that's going to come from this will just be astronomical. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg. There's the Antaresias are just, not that I'm saying I don't like carpets at all, because I know that you're a carpet man, but I think there's so much more that we can do with ants.
Mate, I'm a free agent at the moment.
So we'll get you to jump the fence.
I'm sure at one stage, not very far in the future, hopefully, if I've been behaving myself. So that all counts in the bigger scheme of things. If you behave yourself, and the government comes around, it opens up channels. And I'm sure at some stage, I don't know. I don't quite know if I'll jump the species barrier or genus barrier, but we'll get to that. But it makes it, if you're out of it for a while, it's like you say, there's such an emphasis on getting the next best thing and paying the most money for the next. It's okay if you want to be up there at the front runners, but a lot of guys, the way I see it, if I ever get back into it, the stuff that are big money now, 5 years from now will be affordable.
Yeah.
And it's very simple the way, and if you know what you're doing, and if you've got a good eye, because it there's a lot to say about having a good eye for color and just ideas out of the box. You could start with the stuff that is affordable, and just selectively breed your own line from that, and start like that. So that's,
and it's not just that. Like you get a lot of people that I'll call you up and say, I'm after a T+, I'll give them a price, and they say, I can get it cheaper than that, And you can get it cheaper, but
hey, he speaks,
I always say, there's a reason why stuff is a little bit more expensive. If you compare this animal against the other animal, are they the same? But you got to do your research behind the breeder, what they're breeding, what they've been working with. And not someone that's just with the children's T+, children's stimmy. The children's T+ and my line of T+ stimmies are compatible with each other. So anyone could quite easily go and get a T+ children's, put it over stimmy, and then start selling them as T+ stimmies.
Yes.
And charge $500 or something like that for them. But you're not dealing with a pure gene of an animal.
And you know what, Colin, there are people out there that are malicious enough to go and make up a story as well, and just say, well, make up some garbage about it being, there's a lot of fake news out there. Let's just be honest. A lot of fake news And especially if you've got animals at a set price and somebody doesn't want to pay it, it's always just easier to rubbish the breeder and and talk it down. I mean, that's the other option to do.
Yeah, and there is another line of T plus stimmy out there. I think it's Alan Lee or something like that up in New South Wales.
Yeah.
I unfortunately haven't been able to get any of his animals to see if they're compatible with either Dave's or my line as well.
Yeah. Colin, Darren Boswell says here he's got one of yours. Apparently, he's receiving one of your T positives on Monday, so he can't wait. So there's people are excited, mate. They're excited about what you've got to offer. It's good. It's good to know, and I can't help but think it's your good fortune that's starting to come through now. From you had bad luck with the albinos. At some stage, your good luck turns, and it's almost like you get the bottom of the curve, and then you start climbing start climbing that mountain again, and it's just sweet all the way to the top now. Especially when you've got the good stuff.
I must admit, you were saying before that I'm not someone that posts a lot of kind of thing. And when I met Marty Fajardo, he was after becoming friends with him. He said, you got to start. You've got nice animals, and you're producing these things. You got to start actually going on social media and trying to promote what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I do have to thank him for being able to not be where I am at the moment, but just without promoting yourself or putting stuff on social media nowadays, people wouldn't even know you exist. And there's probably a lot of other breeders that are out there that have got just as equally good animals, if not better.
Yeah.
That aren't on social media or Facebook or something like that.
Yeah, but you know what, Colin? It is in a time now that you have to. I mean, that is the business. People don't want stuff to be shoved down their throats anymore. Well, sales are not like that. It's about being helpful, and it's about offering people something that they can learn from. And they'll if they see value in that, they'll buy from you. It's as simple as that. But you have to take that first step and put yourself out there. And that's why I'm so happy about the guys that have supported this show and that have come on this show. And it gets their name out, because from last week on, the guys, the round table, we had a discussion, and I'm posting this everywhere. So it is as simple as somebody referring. Go and buy a snake from Colin Ray. Oh, who's Colin Ray? Here's the video. Go and check. This is Colin. If you like what he's got to say, if he's like what his animals that he's got to offer, then go and talk to, reach out to him with a direct message or a private message. It's as simple as that. So there's definite, but you have to evolve with the times. And this is unfortunately, I don't know. Sometimes it's unfortunate, but this is the way you get your face out there. So I agree with you 100%. And Marty's a good face. He doesn't like to he likes to talk himself down and say he's not the type for camera, but he's not bad. He's not bad looking. He's a handsome man, He's probably going to say something now, except for his shitty camera. But in any case, we'll work on that. That's something we can fix,
Marty's in bed now.
Oh, is he in bed?
Have to have a shot at him. He's turned off early.
I don't know. He'll be there. He'll be lurking. He's a lurker as well.
He's furiously typing right now.
Who's that? He's
furiously typing right now.
Yeah. So somebody said his son has pushed me to go on Instagram. Yeah, Darren Boswell as well. Another guy. So this is the time now. Thank you. That was very insightful. I'm glad we had a chat about the T positive stimmies, because and looking at your photos, mate, there's some I really like them. I didn't know that you posted those photos of the pastels. I could have seen them, but I was so busy. Look at Colin shaking his head. What are you shaking your head for, Schumacher? Huh?
I sent you that the next day after he put them up.
Yeah, but I'm flustered after, because it was right after the show with Marty. And I think I was chatting to him in the morning. I think I had something on that next day, so I must have just looked at them, and I shared them on my page. What am I talking about?
Yeah,
it's the old age, mate. It's the old age coming through. So this is the time now. If anybody has anything to ask Colin while he's here, go ahead. We can have a bit of a shit talk at the end of the show. There's always a bit of time to talk rubbish. But I think
to the Collins.
Yeah, the Collins, the two Collins. So I've asked you already. I'm going to reach out to these guys, and if they're watching, I'm sure Dave might be. I don't know if he's still awake. You know, rocket scientists. You know, they're hard workers. They are hard studiers. You know, he I did mention it fleetingly. In passing, when I spoke to him last time about the round table, but I think it might be a very good situation to have you, Marty, David Evans, and my wingman talking about the Antaresia mutations, and just let it give. And I'll just have a little round. I'll just put a little screen of myself right in the middle, so I'll just have you guys around me, and I'll just let you guys go crazy. You know.
No, I'd be happy to do that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think
there was one question that you didn't ask that I've noticed you asked a lot of other people, is where I put my PowerPoints in the shed.
Oh yes, sorry, sorry, mate.
Oh,
You see, I told you, mate. If my mind's slipping with stuff that I've shared on the page, you know, like I mean, I'm spread a bit thin there. I apologize. Okay, so Colin, where do you put where's your plugs, and did you install them yourself, or where do you put them in your shed?
No, they're vertical in a row of I think there's 10 doubles on top of each other, and there's three sections of that. So one on every wall.
Yes.
So basically, when you need to access the PowerPoints, there's a door that opens up between the two different banks of enclosures,
okay.
and you have access to every PowerPoint that you need access to.
Yeah.
We had learned from mistakes earlier where, you know, PowerPoints behind cages, you need to get timers, everything like that. So by setting the room up or designing the room around your cage setup before you actually start putting PowerPoints in was probably the best thing that we did.
Yeah.
Bit of a floor plan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think some of the best tips that I can give people as well, you know, is I used to always have cage banks standing right on the ground, and the longer I kept snakes, the more I realized that casters underneath caging or racks makes a big difference, especially when stuff escapes. You know, like I mean, to be able to push a rack away from the wall and, you know, unplug and have all the plugs in one place. You know, that's what I like, you know, especially when you're doing live feeding and stuff like that, when there's a possibility of a rat escaping and chewing through electric cables, you know, you want to have clear access to your plugs that you have in the walls, you know, wheels, cages on wheels, you know, or on frames that you can shift around on wheels, you know, hot water, a sink, you know, workstation. You know,
we've got the room set up with a dishwasher as well. Of course, you know, with water bowls, instead of washing each one individually, we're able to put them through the dishwasher. But then once they've come out of the dishwasher, then clean them. I clean them again with a mix of methylated spirits and water and a paper towel, just to take that soap scum, if there is a soap scum on it, just to make sure that's it's clean. Clean, and no chance of cross contaminations or anything like that. You know?
Yeah, you got your shit sorted out. I like it. I like hearing guys have a plan. You know, it's a plan of attack. Hygiene is key. They can. I mean, I do think sometimes we overdo it with you know, contact with a poo and stuff like that. You know, they're not that sensitive. But if you can avoid that, if you can have a clean snake room and water bowls, especially food areas, and water bowls.
What do they say? Preparation's the best cure.
Yeah. You never want to regret anything. You know.
No, that's right.
Let me just see. There's some chatter here. Hold on. Colin, Emma Louise Allen asks, Colin, do you have your hatchlings in tubs with lids or just slide out from the rack system?
Okay, yeah. So we keep all our hatchlings in steamer tubs, so a 2-litre steamer tub.
Yeah.
They all have a lid on them. I kind of, as much as it's easier to have no lid, I find. If I've got 2 young daughters that will come out and help me clean occasionally, stuff like that. Yeah. And some very unpredictable, slide out, we're getting bitten, whether it be an adult or a juvenile. You know, the last thing you want is someone that's helping you to be bidden.
Yeah.
So yeah, I prefer to have lids on them just for the security's sake. That if they get out, with lids, they're not going to get out. Whereas with no lid on it, if you don't slide it back in properly, or your gap could be slightly too small, they push it away. So I prefer lids. It does take a little bit longer when it comes to cleaning. That's just you've got to have give and take, and that's one of the bad things is that it takes a little bit longer. But we're at a stage now that I'm probably looking at maybe employing someone part time just for maybe 5 hours a week or something like that, just to give me a hand. Because I just find it hard to run a full-time job and a full-time collection to be able to do things without staying up to 12, 1 o'clock every night.
Would you ever consider if you move your way up in the food chain with this? Not that I'm saying you're down at the bottom, but would you consider that? Would you like to do that as a full-time thing?
As a full-time job, I'd love to do it. But is the market in a place where you can make enough from it to make sure that you've got enough money in the bank account to be paying your mortgage, that there's food on the table for your wife and kids. At the moment it's harder because I've got a full-time job that I'm working maybe 11-hour days, and then coming home and then having to go out and do the snakes. But the money that's made from the snakes is not slush money, but it's extra money that we can either go on a holiday or
it gives you a bit of financial freedom.
Yeah, that's right.
The snake
Whereas
money.
if you're just relying on it full time, I don't know. I don't think that, as much as I'd love to do it, I don't think that I'd make enough money from it to be able to do it full time.
Yeah. Oh well, you never say never.
Yeah. But if someone wants to employ me to run their collection as well, then,
Hey, me too. Me too. I'm very good at large collection maintenance. I'll streamline that shit. Anybody that wants to employ me to work with their snakes, I'm not promising that. No, I have to be good, but I'm just saying, Colin wants to, but I want it harder. I want it more. So here we go. Somebody says, pretty tough to do it full time in Australia. I'm looking forward to being retired and just doing the snakes. Darren Boswell, it would be nice. It would be nice. It would be nice to have your super cover you, and you just. I know, but a lot of the American, the guys in the reptile industry that retire, they've got enough in their super to sort of for them to start. But that's your super carries you then. Yeah,
well, that'd
be great.
Yeah, and I'll look at it. I'm going to be doing this long term. I've been doing it for however many years now. I don't intend on stopping. So when I'm retired or whatever, we're still doing it then. But I think that things are going to change as well. Like at the moment, morphs and mutations are a huge thing. It's like with the agricultural society, the birds. Everything at one stage is worth big bucks, and then 5-10 years later, they're looking to go back to normal. Locality specific or just standard looking animals, because everyone got rid of them because they're worth nothing, and no one has them anymore. So we've got to be careful what we do as keepers and breeders too, that we don't get rid of everything that is standard looking or locality specific. Because we do want to keep that original lineage of animals still there. So that we don't lose that altogether.
I think that's a very important point that you're making there. I think with every keeper should have at least one species or one locality type animal. That doesn't necessarily have to be it doesn't have to have any monetary value, but just for as an arc, as a backup, as a insurance policy for future populations. So we don't luckily here they still allowing captive wild collecting and stuff like that in some of the states. But if we can get it, if there are guys that can have just normal jungles, not selectively bred, like just a rough example. If guys are keeping coastal carpets,
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure you can just go and catch a coastal out of a bush, but if you don't have to do that and you've got your own floating population in captivity still that guys are sort of just keeping on the side, and having one or two animals, it will never, they'll never go back into the bush, but it stops us from having to go out and catching them again. And I think I think in the first world that we live in now, it should be a last resort thing to get stuff out of the bush. I think we should be at a point now where the captive populations could sustain. They need to be self-sustained.
And that's right. They need to be self-sustained, but at the same time, what we need to do as breeders too is if we are crossbreeding anything, is to tell the people who we're selling it to exactly what it is.
Yep.
So that animals down the track that were, say, sold as a children's cross Stimsonite, that person then sells them on later on as a pure Stimsonite. Everything needs to be documented so that we know exactly what we're dealing with, so that we're not misled to what we actually own.
Yeah. I'm watching poor Mr. Schumacher down here, man. You had shame. He's had a long day. I don't think I've ever seen him. He's nodding off there. Shame, mate. Sorry. At least you there. At least you weren't gonna even be on the show, and you just persevered. Preparation doesn't have the flash setup like we normally have there, but he's here. He didn't want to miss out on Colin Ray's expose tonight. So we won't hold you up a lot longer. I think as a closing thought, Darren Boswell said as well, he said Darren Whittaker was posting photos of his animals. I'm sure all of us have got these archives of pictures on our computers, of animals that we've kept over the last 10, 20 years. Every reptile keeper has got it, and it's you go and have a look through those starter foundation animals and stuff like that. I thought it's very important that we don't lose even stuff like, as recent as rough scale pythons. There was an upsurge of them in the last over 5 years ago, and now where are the roughies?
That's right. Yeah. There's they're an awesome animal. It's probably one species that I didn't get into that I would have loved to, but I suppose at the same things are too pricey. Yeah. And then nowadays it's just too much concentration happening on the ant species. Yeah. But I'd love to get into them.
But we should always be wary that it doesn't become just a price thing, And I've done that. I've done the same thing. I've stopped when I used to keep lots of animals. I stopped keeping the stuff that wasn't economically viable. And I sometimes wonder, there's nothing wrong with having one cage set up with one pair of common things, but just making a beautiful cage out of it. Wild type. The rough scale pythons are a perfect example of a natural, historical, valuable species. You wonder what's going to happen with ownpellies. When ownpellies get to, there's a while away, but 15 years from now, when ownpellies are common, are they just going to die out because they're suddenly not worth $17,000 a pair anymore? I think that's what they're worth. I'm not sure. Touch wood, I don't know what.
As you're saying, with what animals are worth, you kind of, as a breeder too, you need to cover a lot of different bases that not everyone is going to have money sitting there to buy a higher end snake. You've got people that are just coming into the hobby that are after a standard Stimson or a standard children eye or a standard carpet. So even though it's not worth anything, there's still people that are still interested in these animals, and there's always a market for it. So you kind of need to cover a few different bases, whether it be bottom of the market, middle of the market, or top of the market, so that there's always a sale there for someone, or a snake there for someone, depending on what they want.
Yeah, no, Colin, I just wanted to say thank you again for coming over. We call it. I think we've pretty much covered everything that we've got to do. I'm looking at this friend of mine down here. He wants to go to bed. Otherwise, we'll probably just end up with a screen with nobody in there, and he'll be just vertical on there. Or is it vertical or horizontal? Horizontal. It'll be horizontal flat. Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna like standing
flat,
up. Yeah,
flat
why
on
not?
his side. Yeah. It's one of those English words that I always get confused with horizontal and vertical. I don't know why I get stuck on that. It's such as horizontal is like the sun. Like where the sun comes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm just off tangent totally. Colin Ray, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight, mate. I'm just gonna wish you all the best of luck. Please tell people where they can get a hold of you.
They can get a hold of me on Facebook on Ray's Reptiles,
Yep.
or they can either contact me, Colin Ray, and at Facebook as well.
And Colin's one of the few guys that still let people call him on his phone. So that's his phone number behind him, 0416 088 034. So that's when you know a reptile keeper's legit. You won't ever get a phone call because people don't use phones for calling people anymore.
True, very true. But thank you once again for having me tonight as well. It's been a privilege to come on your show.
That's all right, mate. I like to support the guys that have in the past supported me as well. So and I think there's a lot of good that can come out of especially the shows that are on the internet now. I think it makes it a bit more personable, especially with there being such there's a lot of snake activity and sales happening at the moment, and it's always good to know who you dealing with when you're buying your first snake. Or I'd rather send somebody to you to buy their first snake and know that they're going to get the right advice and step by step help. To not lose these youngsters out of the industry.
That's one thing that we kind of try and make sure we do for the customers is that it's not just selling someone a snake, it's the after sales service as well. If there is a hassle, if something for some reason doesn't work, whether it stops feeding or we're always happy to fix the problem if there is a problem and move forward from it. So we're not like a shop that if you buy something from us and once the sale's gone, we don't want to know you. I tell people I want to see photos of the snakes once they're yearlings or 2 years old to actually know myself, how things turn out further down the track.
Yeah, just a tip for you: if we close the show off, go over to the Carpet Python TV page and to the live stream page or group, and just go and there's people. You're getting a lot of good feedback there. Just go and it's good to go and say, people have asked questions, just go and respond. And, there's a lot of people saying, like Faye saying, Colin is a great guy, I think you were kept in high regard to the people that know, that have worked with you over the last 10 years, and that's always a good sign.
Thank you.
That you're a decent human to deal with in a situation where you want to get your first snake. So, mate, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm just going to close it off. So I'll see you. Just hang tight, my wingman, as usual. You look like death warmed up, but hopefully I get to see you this weekend. Hopefully,
maybe, yeah.
Hopefully, if you survive, and hopefully not another day like today. So, but I'm just gonna switch to the single scene and just say goodbye to the people, and then I'll see you guys in the just afterwards. Just hang tight, all right? I'm just gonna mute you. Okay, awesome show as usual. Thank you everybody for joining in. Oh, here we go. Thanks. Yep. Thank you. Great. Thank you. We try our best to give you the best quality show that we can. I've even upgraded my internet so we never have any of these dropouts ever again. And thank you for coming around. I'll see you guys next Friday. We've got next weekend we've got the big next Saturday we've got the Americans on. And it's going to be who's got the best snakes, and it's going to be a big competition. It's going to be a little bit of a debate. I'll be the devil's advocate because I'm not a full-blooded Australian. I'm not born and bred here, so I'll try and be the middleman and the judge in the thing, and we'll decide. I've got a little bit biased, of course. I'm a little bit biased, but we got Eric Burke and Owen McIntyre on the show, and we are going to have and I think they're bringing a secret weapon. And, of course, the Aussies are coming and they've got secret weapons. There's a couple of guys coming on the show as well that carry their weight in the industry. But you'll have to wait and see who those lads are. I don't know if I've put it on there. Hopefully I haven't disclosed that information online already. So, folks, thank you for joining in tonight. I really appreciate it, as always. And have a lovely weekend with the family. And hopefully it's great weather where you are. And hopefully what's the new normal? We'll survive that. So is this best way to spend a Friday night? Yeah. Thank you very much, and thanks for all the positive things. Thanks again to Colin Schumacher. Go and have a sleep now, and Colin Ray. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you, guys.